Hello and welcome to this episode 213 of Frame and Reference. You're about to drop into a conversation between me, Kenny McMillan, and my guest Gavin Kelly, ASC, DP of Ballard. Enjoy.
You know, that actually, because I was reading reading a couple interviews you did, and a bunch of times you did talk about like sort of the balance of health and not getting burnt out and like trying to give 1,000%, but still balancing it. That seemed like a pretty important part of your journey.
Well, I think maybe it came up in that interview specifically too. Yeah, I mean, I think it's always part of the journey, but it's kind of like the long, not the long game, but yeah, the long haul of it, right? I mean, and maybe just having been in the cinematography for a couple decades now, it's like there's at least enough kind of trajectory that there's peaks and valleys and the roller coaster, right? We all have whatever our respective journeys are. There's always peaks and valleys, but then trying to balance that out. I have a family and all that, and so all of that, right? So it's kind of a day-to-day, year-to-year thing, but every year's a little different. But it's definitely part of it. I have become more conscious in the past, especially in the past, I don't know, handful of years. Not more conscious, maybe just more proactive in terms of trying to really balance that out better. Because we all, I don't know, at least all the cinematographers and creative folks I know are very passionate about what you do. You have to be, right, in order to to pursue such a crazy line of work in a lot of ways. But so there's that, and you kind of give it your all, and especially starting out. Not that starting out, I feel like I would just give my all, not really think, kind of throw everything else to the wayside, right? That's just nothing surprising about that. But then as you get older, you kind of try to, as you get more experience and more comfortable and kind of know yourself and kind of your strengths and the things you continue to need to work on, and kind of professionally and personally, you kind of just try to balance that out. But we're always a work in process, not to be too, generic about it, but I do feel like that's there's always stuff I'm working on.
Yeah, I mean, that is one thing that I think probably once you get to your level, this is less of a thought. But like me and my girlfriend, she's a dancer, right? So we're both in the creative fields, and we've been dating for like 6 years, and so obviously like life conversations start to happen. And one of them is both of us going like, well, I'm not really expecting her to obviously she can't doing a literal physical job. She can't like dance forever, but she already works like in dance competitions and stuff like that. But both of us are kind of like, I don't see retirement. I look at Deacons and I'm like, well, he's still kicking. He's still even operating, so clearly you can do this until you physically can't. Or like homeboy who shot he's always got the hat on. What's his name? Older guy.
Ed Lockman?
Lockman's still kicking.
Amazing. Yeah. Oh, 100%. No, yeah. I mean, the longevity and the path of it for sure. And then, I only think so far ahead, but
you can only plan so far.
Yeah, exactly. So far ahead, but yeah, definitely thinking just kind of longevity and knowing, I think it's just maybe more, right, trying to find that sweet spot, which is not, I don't know if you ever exactly find it, but that sweet spot between, kind of the drive and the push, and also kind of being okay with where things are this particular moment, which is kind of, and knowing that you're going to continue to grow and be able to share, your experiences and collaborate with other filmmakers. And just, I mean, that's kind of one of the things that that's drawn me to filmmaking in general and cinematography specifically too, was the collaboration aspect. So, I mean, as I continue along in my career, just the most exciting thing to me is, obviously the relationships I had with directors or producers or, and the crews that I work with, but then also meeting new filmmakers, every new project's a new chance to kind of, I don't know, reinvigorate the passion in a different way and bring something to it. So it's a constantly newly, right? I mean, what we do is there's a constant fresh, something, every day is a bit of an adventure, right? So it's like something fresh is always brought in, whether you're working with the same folks on a new project or multiple seasons of a show. There's always, of course, there's going to be something new every season and every, and then, or it's, working with new filmmakers or younger filmmakers. It's like a constant, I think it's kind of that infusion of constant, new energy and perspectives that keep me going, keep me excited all the time. So,
I feel like, I can't remember who I was talking to about this, but you'll hear a lot of regular folks, I guess, Not that we're all not regular folks, but I feel like there is kind of this strange resentment towards film professionals, but also artists, where you do get to like, it's not that, you know, work every day, or work, do a thing you love and you won't work a day in your life. It's not necessarily
Right.
that, but it is like that sort of iterative, the thing that invigorates you every day is the creative work, which is fun.
Right.
And I think there is a level of, I don't want to call it selfishness, but it's like, I feel like, especially in America, there's this push of like, you're having too much fun. That's not work.
I see. Right.
You know, and
Well,
I always find that fascinating.
that's interesting. I mean, yes, but I think, well, I think maybe, I don't know if I'm extrapolating something that you're not saying, but
Extrapolate away.
I don't know why I use that word. I don't ever use that word, but
Good word.
I'm not trying to be fancy, but no, but I don't know if I'm bouncing off what you're saying or not, but I think there's that, yeah, there's perception. Oh my gosh, that's great. You get to work with cameras, you make movies and shows, and it's fun every day. But look, it's, yeah. I mean, I hope maybe I'm not painting the right. I mean, it's a ton of work, right?
Yeah.
The hours are long. That's kind of comes back to what I was first saying. Like, I don't know. You have to be really passionate about it. Either kind of have to be really passionate or all in, or maybe this isn't the thing for you, right? Because it does take a ton of work, a ton of drive, a ton of push, a ton of hustle, frankly, you know what I mean? In terms of the, you know, trying to get a job and the next job. And it's kind of a constant, even though day to day it might be different, whether you're in the middle of a production versus prep versus looking for the next job, or, you know, it's like, but it's a constant, right? And it takes a lot of work beyond just what maybe what the general, I don't know, the general public, maybe what folks think it is, you know. Yes, it's like, oh my gosh, you get to make, you know, nice images and tell stories of it. Yes, absolutely. I feel very fortunate, but I also work really hard. So it's like, you know, it's two sided. It does take a lot. Yes, there are definitely harder, much, you know, harder professions and more life and death professions that change the world in very immediate and direct ways. But, you know, what we do, it does take a lot of work if you're really going for it.
Yeah. Well, and my response is always like, to that type of ideas is, sure, you know, working retail, I think, sucks just in general. I don't think anyone loves that.
Done that.
But like the sort of greener pastures from, you know, I'll look at like carpenters and I'm like, that's like, I can easily see myself.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, it's not because it's technically the same thing every day, but it's like you're making new stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
Like but it's, you know, it's working with your hand, like even stuff like that. I'm like, oh, I'd love to do that. My buddy, I've mentioned him a bunch, but my buddy Carrie and his wife Jamie work at Legacy Effects. And I'm just like, you guys have absolutely the coolest job. Like, you get to make the power armor and Grogu and shit. And like, I would love to do that. You know?
No, I can absolutely see an alternate version of, you know, sliding doors version of my life where exactly it was more, you know, because yeah, absolutely, something that you know, working with your hands and it's creative, but there's a very immediate, tangible result. I mean, I guess we do that shooting wise too. At the end of the day, you've whatever you got in the can, but yes, for sure. I mean, I think,
and you don't have to run a crew.
Yes, I mean, yes, that's right. Right, it's creative and technical and managerial, right? I mean, it's a lot of logistics and managerial for as a cinematographer on a bigger project. But yeah, no, I definitely I don't know. It is always fun to think about what you'd be doing if you weren't in this. As it kind of changes over time. Certain things I'm like, oh yeah, you know, I kind of feel like I might do the same thing I was interested in when I was in high school, or not, you know. But yeah,
it's
like so.
What do you do to balance it? Because obviously, if you go full in, and especially having a family, you know, like that's kind of a hack question.
Yeah,
that's a late night question.
No.
But like, how do you balance having to be all in? Because it's very easy for, you know, I know a lot of DPs who are older than us and you know, still not single, like, oh no, but just like, you know, family didn't really pop in.
Yeah.
But then also, my therapist told me about you know, the three legs of the stool, right? There's your personal life, your family life, so to speak, and then your work life. And if any leg on the stool is short, you know, stool topples over.
Yes.
So like, how do you personally balance those legs?
Sometimes better than others. That's I'm not gonna lie. You know, like I don't know. I mean, I'm very fortunate that my wife Danielle and I, we've been together a long time. And
my girlfriend's also called Danielle.
Oh, Yeah, I know. There you go. The Danielle. It's like, so our relationship, and yes, it's it's challenging at times. She works really hard. She's a elementary school teacher,
Oh, damn.
and yeah, I mean,
In
it's, and
LA,
she's,
damn.
yeah, and she loves what she does. She's great at it, and she works really hard and puts kind of his all in as well. And we have our son Emerson is in seventh, just started seventh grade, and so yeah, we have so all that's happening, and we kind of do the juggle, and then when I'm on a longer form project, the dynamic has to kind of shift, and it's a lot, but she definitely takes on a lot of the weight, and but we do the juggle back and forth. So it's a constantly evolving thing. And over time we've gotten better at it. Right. And we've had some very challenging times with trying to do the juggle, and then, right. Every year different depending on what's going on. But I do have to say, I'm just personally very fortunate that I have a partner that, that we can really, we're in it together and really can work on it together and have been in the long haul. So that's super and I realize how fortunate that is. So it's a lot of props to my wife and kind of our family, and our parents as well and everything. So, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not any, I know we've been talking about this for a while, but I'm not like I don't know how, I don't have the answers. I don't, I'm not, great at it all the time, but, do try to figure it out. And then, I think one thing having been together a long time is that, not to get too, but we do, because we've been through a lot, right? I mean, it's each new situation that the specifics might be different in terms of whether I have to go to town or whether she has this going on at work or, or is juggling something else. And then what's going on with our family. So it's like all the parameters might be slightly different each, year to year, every few months, but we've gotten pretty good at adapting and kind of retooling.
Yeah.
But it's always a constant thing. It's not easy, but
well, it kind of goes back to sort of what you were saying about not thinking too far ahead and stuff. It's like I have also found that a lot of DPs are just creative people in general. There is a reason why a lot of them become maybe obsessed with meditation or any of that kind of thing, where it's like that you kind of do have to live in, especially with strikes and COVID and all this stuff. It's like if you're in this for the long haul, it's better to not think ahead. It's better to live today, Yeah,
I mean, the hardest thing of the what we've done, it's like, because I do think ahead. It's not, maybe I misrepresented, but it's more like, right. It's like not to get too marvel about it. It's like the multiverse, right? It's like, if this project goes, if project A moves forward, then this scenario is going to happen, or maybe this, feature I've been talking about is going to go finally in a few months. It pushed, or maybe this show is moving, or maybe there's going to be another season. So you're kind of like gaming out all these, scenarios and trying to work it out. And you can only go so far with that, right? Of course, It's like like you said, you don't know for sure, but at least you can think ahead a little bit. You get a little better at that. Like, okay, so I'll do this and this, and then something else may come up and change. But in terms of like between all the flux of that, everything in flux of that, or you're on a project that ends up going longer or whatever, but the flux of that, I do in terms of what I try to do to kind of balance out. I mean, what I definitely kind of always fall back to is I love shooting, I love cinematography, I love storytelling, but I also love still photography, like just me with the camera. That's what I can kind of, when I have some downtime or between things or prepping or kind of getting ahead of it's like just me with my arsenal of cameras. I can go out and shoot, whether street photography or landscape, or just go but just any, like I can go and always have that creative kind of outlet with a camera, which I love. And that kind of helps keep me going, it keeps me kind of, along with other kind of artistic influences or input, of all kind, all the usual things, but that'll keep me kind of engaged day to day. I always seem to have a camera around and doing something. And so, and as like that's a bottomless pit, it's like, with anything, right? I can shoot stills and just, go and start working with Lightroom and then work on different, it's like, you guys just go there around the hole. And, which I think I get definitely from my dad as well. My dad's an amateur photographer, and he's the one who first, gave me a camera when I was, and my grandfather as well, and on my mom's side, so, and our family. So there's definitely a lot of that in there, but, but you're right. In terms of like finding a balance or finding kind of the meditate, for me, it's exercise and other stuff. I play music a little bit. So it's like, there's all these different things, but, I don't know. Yeah. We really went down the rabbit hole on this. I dig it.
I'm a rabbit guy.
I love it.
I have to, this show has really taught me how to focus a little bit because I
know.
you know I will instantly ask a question that I used to, at least. I try not to anymore, about something later, and I'm like, hold on, we got to go back to this other, like, I
Oh yeah,
always got
yeah.
this little, exactly what you're saying, the fucking multiverse over here on my notepad, like, all right, no, don't, that's
I love
later,
it.
like, don't.
Not really.
Yeah, I the photography thing, I think is so wonderful, because like you'll follow all these amazing DPs on Instagram, and they're, David Mullen is just
Oh
out
yeah.
here posting some of the most incredible photography, and he's like, I was just walking through Prague or whatever and took this, and you're like, is that a still, like, what is that, a cell phone shot, and you're like, what?
Right. Right.
It's just
No,
a great way to keep sharp,
100% every day. Yeah, and it's no, that's great. Yeah, David's work, and you notice that he's such a obviously great cinematographer and photographer, but he's all these really beautiful light. Like it's always gold. It's a lot of gold now, right? Like he's getting the just and he's really beautiful compositions. I love his work. But yeah, no, I think it stays sharp, but it's also like for me, I'm always in one stage or another of any given number of projects. Like
right?
so it's like or sometimes I'm working on stuff that because I shoot film, I shoot digital, different formats, all kinds of stuff. So for me it's like it's always experimentation, or it's of course keeping up on the latest gear, because that is part of it, right? That's part of our job. And to know what to kind of just kind of like have to exercise all those muscles all the time with what's out there and what's coming out and but then also there might be something I'm interested in, whether it's, I don't know, some aspect of cinematography or lensing, or some old lenses I found that, and they're looking to rehouse. But it's like, I'm always experimenting for something that might come into play for a project coming up, right? Sometimes it's very specific, like, oh, I'm looking for a way to looking for this certain quality of, characteristics and lenses that I don't know what project I'm using for, but I'm really curious about. So I'll keep that in the back of my head or on some list in my notes on my iPhone for, potential this or that for project. Or there might be like, there's like a film coming up down the road that like maybe is even months out or a year out, but there's certain things that are new, certain ideas that are spinning around that I can work on while I have some time. It's like, so there's or it might be a project I just wrapped that I was like, oh, I wish, we'd be able to do more of this or that. So it's like, you're constantly in this state of, you have to, at least for me, I can only speak for me, but I always have to be some level of engagement with all these things. I can only, when I wrap a big project, yes, it's nice to have some downtime for a week or something and reset. But after that first week, I feel like the time gets shorter the longer I do it. Like what it used to be like, I'd run out, maybe it's just, experience, but, when I was younger, it's like, oh my gosh, I need a couple of weeks off. Now I'm actually like, no, okay, 3 days, I cut up some sleep, reset. Okay, I'm, the gear's already turning on the next thing or looking for the next, the next thing to experiment with. So it's like a constant, I always feel like there's short form projects that come up, or it's like, there's always something, there's always a handful of things going on. Yeah. So that's good.
Well, and I feel like with experience comes the ability to reset quicker.
Yeah.
Like sure. I find the worst time, and I guess this is slightly obvious, but the worst time is having that giant break, because then you get out of the habit. It's hard to maintain that rigor, when suddenly you have 3 months to just twiddle your thumb. Like
right.
I just got back from a wedding, and then on Tuesday I'm flying out to Italy for another wedding, but we're going to be there for like 9 days because we're going a little early, and just this week in between, I have felt, because I intentionally didn't schedule anything, because what's going to be, but I started designing like a barbecue sauce. Like I started
tell me more.
Well, I live over here in Japantown, so I was like, wouldn't it be great if there was like an everything sauce that you could put on like El Pastor tacos, but also like pizza, but had like Japanese influence and stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool.
I caught myself at like 3 a.m, like researching like what goes into Miyagi sauce. I'm like, what am I doing? Like I could just take the week off, like watch a movie or something,
Well, but that's you have that mind, right? It's like that same thing. I'll be up in the middle of the night, some little, very easy can go down, right? We can go down these rabbit holes, and because we're creative or critical, it's like, the gears get going on something. And usually for me, it's like multiple things at once, right? Yeah. So I'm not joking about the endless iPhone notes. I mean, I have to categorize all these things, threads to come back to, because otherwise it's like, obviously there's certain things are prioritized over others, but it's like I can come back to something several months later and be like, okay, now I have time to, a minute to dive into this or explore this more. But yes, I can definitely relate to the 3 a.m. Wormholes.
Yeah. And then
That's
you're always
great.
like, you check your calendar, you're like, oh, I'm supposed to be somewhere in the morning.
Oh yeah.
I need to go
Oh
sleep.
yeah.
Are you you mentioned it, but are you like a big gear guy? Like, does the new developments excite you, or is it just more like I have to stay up on this because it's my job?
It some that's a good question. It does excite me. I'm always excited for the new, right? But I'm not a gearhead. Like I don't. I mean, yes, yes, I have to. You have a general sense of obviously the latest cameras or sensors or lenses, but I'm not super techy. Like I don't. I'm somewhere in the middle. Like I know that's part of I need to know, and I'm curious on what that can do for me creatively. The XYZ, but I'm also like when I shoot the camera tests and the lens tests and I do all the things, but I'm not like I tried because I can spin out forever on that. That's it. Talk about 3 a.m, right? Like, and so sometimes I do. If there's like if I'm whittling it down to some aspect that I don't know, a couple sets of lenses or what the differences between these two cameras. See, I can go down, but I always have to kind of cut myself and come back on it. But I'm always more. I'm just generally more drawn creatively, story wise, character wise,
Sure.
visually than before anything else. So, but the tech is great too, right? I mean, because it's allowing you. I'm always trying to push it and push whatever it is, the new thing. So
I run into the issue of being a collector.
yeah,
I just, and so for instance, like this guy, it's an 8-foot quasar tube, but it was on sale for $200. It retails for like $2,000. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with this. It's the
Oh, no, you
size.
need that.
It goes literally from floor to ceiling, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what am I? I just couldn't pass up. I was like, well, I might need an 8-foot tube light someday.
And you will,
Yeah.
or you will find, or it will come up right at just the right moment. And that's what-
Some hallway, or I don't know, the world's largest backlight. Yeah.
Oh, hey, you know what? Those quasars are great. 8 foot. Yeah, I see it now. There it is. Yeah, it's been there the whole time. Look at that.
And it's RGB. It's nice, but I am much more well because like before I really started getting into cinematography for the longest time, I still write for them, but I write for Video Coalition, and a lot of that job was gear review, and so I have kind of burnt out on it, but I still have that muscle of, and I get all these PR emails. Like I'm the first one to know about anything, and it has simultaneously like been exciting, but then also you start to see the code in the matrix, and then like something will come out and you go, oh, that's roughly like that. All right, cool. Even if it's incredible, you're like, yeah, I got it. You're a little burnt out.
Right. No, well, that's interesting. I mean, for me too, it's like yes, I mean, obviously I'm very interested in the latest tech, but also for me, it's like it has to be hands-on. So like I can only go so far until I need to just whatever it's a new camera or lenses or whatever. I have to just get out and start testing and working with it for it to mean something to me, because you know what I mean. Otherwise, I mean, trust me, I'll go. I mean, I'll go research anything. Like, but you know, I mean, I'll go on YouTube, watch the review. Like, I'll do that like everybody else and see, and obviously from the manufacturers or from that, from all the companies, all this, I'll do all the stuff because I'm curious, right? And then you follow the thread. The next thing I do it, trust me, I just like anybody else, I get it done. But at some point, I'm like, okay, now I just need to go out and work with this or not. I can just feel it out, because at the end of the day, that's and maybe that's why I like still photography when I'm not shooting cinematography wise, because it allows it to be very direct in that way, because it's just me and a camera and lenses, and it's
well,
it's the other side of it.
For me, it's like, because I work indie side, primarily documentary, there is a little bit more of like, hey, what camera are you shooting? Like
for sure.
It's less like, what do we do creatively? And it's more like Post has these things. So you're like, I have all these Canons, and they're like, we shoot Sony now. It's, all right, well, because they're not going to rent it. We don't have money in documentaries, so now I got to invest.
No, 100%. No, 100%. That's a big part of it. No, that can definitely, absolutely is a big part of it.
Yeah.
But you're deeper in it than I. But I mean, obviously, it changes so quick.
Every day,
constantly. It's the new thing and the next thing, and it's coming out. It just came out, and it's still out. It's already obsolete, but it's not really. But it's like there's only so much I can keep up on all that all the time. Like
Well, and to your point, I just bought an F-55.
Oh yeah,
and it's funny because it's, that thing came out in like 2013 or whatever. And I've been testing it on stuff because we're using it on this dock, and like, it's still great. Like, I don't know why they keep I know why they keep releasing stuff, but it's like the RE model of like, we're going to make one, you're going to deal with that for almost 20 years. And then maybe we make a new one. Like, I much prefer that.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving me one. Maybe it's a different size now. Love that. But like, we don't need to be doing this.
I mean, it is absolutely true. And yes, there are incremental, of course. I mean, the train will always keep moving forward in that regard, and it should.
Capitalism.
But yes, it has to, right? Well, and the art does, like the more tools, the better. I feel like the more tools, the better, right? But
sure,
for options. But like you said, FD5 is a good example. It's not like or like the Lexa Mini for that. Like you said, the original Lexa Mini. It's still a great camera, right? Just because there's a Mini LF and the 35, and now there's 35 Extreme. It's like these are all great improvements. I shot all of them, but not the Extreme, but the Mini is great. Or Lexa Mini, right? It's still a great sensor. I mean, it's so same thing. Obviously, lenses are the most obvious example of that too, right? I mean, because all these old lenses you can pull out and rehouse, and that's where we're all at now on this stuff. So
I think that's the most exciting development is people, being able to, I don't know if obviously it's like a manufacturing thing now where people can, not only 3D printing, but just like, I guess CAD, like really specific CAD modeling and scanning and stuff, where people can take all these old photo lenses. Like I would love to know when that started happening. Like obviously Duclos sort of,
right,
maybe not famously, but like in my head kicked off that whole thing. But who was like the first? I guess it was Kubrick, right? He was using that NASA lens,
modified NASA lens for very loud. Yeah, I mean, I don't know when I don't know when that all started, but
because no one was just making mounts, in like the 20s,
right? Well, I mean, I'm not super. It's all a bit fuzzy the further it goes back for me, but I do. It's interesting. I mean, there's always been a sense of obviously the next technology, the next leaps, but I don't know, not repackaging, but kind of revisiting older tech and update. It's like that's a constant kind of process, right? But yeah, the lenses thing is great. I mean, like, not to mention, like one of my favorite cameras, I'll just go out with my little Canon A1 and my Canon FDs, and you know what I mean? Like, of all the other fancier, more expensive stuff, so I love just going and shooting. That's why, 35, 50. It's like, it's, it's great. It doesn't have to be, and then being able to shoot with comparable versions of those FDs on, the cinema stuff is great too. So it's like, I love it. I love the lens thing because it's endless, and then being able now that we're in the next, not the next phase, but the phase of being able to kind of tune and customize and create a whole like concoction of lens,
when you've
Frankenstein lenses, for specific
Dan Sasaki on your side.
Yeah. But now in zero optic and all of it, like it's like,
love Alex.
It's like, Alex is great. So it's like, it's all, that's what I love them. It's like, because, for every new piece of modern tech that comes out that is, moving things along, I don't know, moving things along, but it's like the next things, which is important, right? But it's like, now let's see how we can keep that's the excitement. It's the old and new that keep having to get, getting the soup together, right, and create something new that it keeps it really interesting for me. Because otherwise, frankly, it would get, I get the Ks and the pixels, and it's like I can only go so far with all of it before I get a little antsy.
Well, that's been the nice thing, at least that I've noticed, is because I think you're only a little bit older than me, but like my educational journey, I guess, started with DV, in college, and to watch everything. I like kind of try to think of myself. I'm trying to be like a camera historian in that way.
Yes, good.
Just because I'm around students a lot, and like writing and stuff, it's all vaguely educational, and I'm trying to remind younger filmmakers often, like, hey, I know it seems like whatever you've got is limited in some way, trust me, this is the
Yeah.
like you're fine. Like, do
Yes.
not go buy something. Just whatever you got works, man.
Yes.
Like the fact that you can shoot 24p is great.
Oh,
You know,
oh my
not
gosh.
having to log and capture is great.
Yeah. Yes. All of it. No, right. I mean, oh my gosh. DVX 100 still a beautiful camera, but it's true. No, I mean, yeah, anything, that's what I mean. Anything of the past 10, 15 years, really, any of it, it's going to be light years of what we started off with. Yeah. I mean, it's, which is really, you know, which is super interesting. And then yet it's always fascinating to see how there's a curiosity, right? With the, right. Obviously, you know, still, of course, there's a trickle of things shot on film these days, but the interest, you know, from next generations coming up and filmmakers in general, right, it varies, but there's, you know, interest in that technology, that aesthetic, and that look, and that process, right, and forms. It's like, which is what's super exciting to me, because uh you know, that everyone's all, I think, in their own way and with their own kind of perspective, is trying to approach how the best way to tell the story, but it doesn't always have to be the way everyone else does. Even though I think, you know, I think when folks start out, obviously the tendency, of course, is to like, oh, I want it to look like this. I want it to look like that, right? I love this. Oh, and they shot this on that camera. And so I'm going to get this camera and it's going to look like this. And it's like, well, no, I mean, you know,
Talk to your production designer first and see if it'll look like
yeah,
that.
and remember that lighting and composition and, you know, having a perspective is all important, right? That is the kind of flip side of, I feel like, I mean, so there's always been that sense, but even when I was starting out, a long time ago, you know, it's, of course, you were kind of imitating, you know, you had to start from somewhere, right? So it's like, how do I get this look? How do I make it look like this? What did they do technically to make it look like this? And then you realize pretty quickly that it's, of course, much more than that. But I think these days, the only tendency I get a little queasy about is because there's all the new tech coming out all the time, and there's all the media around it, right? And anybody, you can look up any camera, any lens, or anything that's about to come out, or it's just come out, or it's been out a year ago or 2 years, and you can find reviews and insight and great stuff, right? A lot of perspective, a lot of all the tech you can imagine, sample, you know, all the stuff, which is super, a huge vital resource that we didn't have in the same way starting out. You kind of have to still, for me, it's like, there's only so much of that you should do at any stage. And that's what I'm saying. You should get out there, just get your hands on a couple things, rent it or demo something, and like start doing it, feel out what is the best way for what you're trying to do. Whether it's documentary, narrative, or anything, or small scale, large scale, it's all the same process. Because otherwise, I don't know. I feel like folks can, sometimes I'm talking to younger filmmakers or folks starting out, and it, you know, at the time you can get lost in all that, the tech stuff too much early on, I feel like. And it's important because and I understand it helps you, you know, to feel like you have your feet are on solid ground, right? If I understand how, I understand this sensor versus this sensor, if I understand this, and it's all important to have the foundation, but it's also just as important to find your way of telling, you know, of using the camera to capture things and to create, you know, emotion and the character and story and all that kind of stuff.
Well, that's the reason that, you know, the American Cinematographer manual is separate from the magazine. You know, there's a reference.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point.
But you're not reading the reference, but you can just reference it. You don't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess that this does kind of dovetail nicely in that, because you shot like all the American horror stories, right?
No. I came in, I mean, there's many seasons. No, I came in, when did I come in? I came in season 6, like halfway through, when there's kind of a shift in the look. And then I shot 3 other seasons after that. So somewhere kind of in the middle. And then it's gone on to shoot several more seasons. So no, I came in,
I thought you shot up to season 6. That's bad research.
Yeah, no, I came in. No, there's other great cinematographers, including Michael Goy, that shot several seasons, kind of really helped define the look. And but yeah, I kind of came in and shot several seasons in the middle there, which is great. Because every season is a totally different, ball game.
That's it's a fantastic series in that regard, where it's like each one. I kind of love, what was that other that Daniel, not Daniel Craig, but Harry Potter. What's his name?
Harry Potter. I don't know what are we
the dude who plays Harry Potter.
Oh,
Radcliffe.
Yeah, Radcliffe.
that show he did, Holy something, whatever, but it was like each season was vaguely related. It was the same cast, but it was like a different set. And American Horror Story does the same thing, where it's like, that's fun. That has to be fun for the filmmakers, like, to be able to shift so much. So that's what I was going to ask about you with American Horror Story, is like, is it a brand new prep process for each seat? Like, is it everything else is gone and we're starting something new as if it were like a completely different film, or like, are you borrowing? What's that iterative process
right
like?
right No, that's a great question. The short answer is the kind of really distilled down answer is yes. Every season's new. I mean, like you said, some of the cast, I can only speak for the seasons I've done. Some of the casts would return and or be cast for this particular season. The story's obviously different. Some of the scenes start to tie in to previous seasons, even including like Apocalypse that I was on. But it's interesting coming in the middle of kind of the run of that show. In a lot of ways, I was of course very aware of what the earlier seasons that kind of define, so kind of the iconic seasons that are very, add certain things stylistically that we definitely have become kind of part of the DNA of the show a little bit. But then it was kind of finding that line of, okay, well, I know what the American Horror Story has been, and what people love about it, what Ryan Murphy and the whole team, there's certain things they would stress and emphasize for a given season. But then also we'd all bring ideas to the table as well. And there might be certain references and want to kind of push in a different direction, or, so it was every season. But the way I approached it for sure was every season, okay, what is this season about? Yeah, I'm not that I'm forgetting everything Horror Story has ever done, because there's certain kind of tonal things, even though every season might be a different time period and playing a little bit different genre of horror, or different kind of lineage of horror in this season. So we'd always kind of redefine, like, I'm trying to think of, a couple really extreme examples. Like, the last season of Horror Story I shot was 1984, which was AHS 94, which is very,
That
was a look. It was very much, it was such a fun season. It was very much 80s, late 70s, 80s slasher films. And the story was very much, we're at a camp in the woods and the whole thing. And so all the kind of, we're definitely playing in all that, but still also keeping it within the Horror Story kind of world. But, kind of lens choice wise, lighting wise, all of that was informed a lot about those references, versus something like the previous season, which was Apocalypse, which was calling back to some of the earlier seasons of Horror Story, and had this kind of really it was such a wild season in terms of the end of the world and bunkers, and it was just all over the place in a really wonderful, exciting, fun way. And we did a lot of candlelight, and it was just a whole nother aesthetic, completely different. So very controlled. So that shows so much fun. And there's both from the scripts and the concepts and the tone, you're definitely encouraged to kind of go for it, I guess, is the short of it. It definitely keeps you on your toes in terms of how ambitious the show is, story wise and character wise and set piece wise, and it's horror and drama, and you got the ensemble cast. It's like, it's all of it, right? Everything. So it's a lot of fun in that way.
Yeah. It's funny. I just realized, like, kind of in the same, I was watching Ballard, and when I got to the Amazon page, it was like, explore the world of Bosch. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, I didn't know there was this many Bosches, first of all. Also, I didn't know this was a Bosch story. I didn't realize we had a Bosch universe. Like,
there's the Bosch universe.
Yeah.
There's the universe.
The Boschiverse.
Boschiverse, yes.
Do you look, because I was watching it, I watched the first few episodes, and
cool.
I was struck by it, like, how comforting the look was, because I guess I haven't watched like someone is drilling in this building and it's incredibly distracting. I hope that doesn't come out on the recording. But I guess I haven't watched a police procedural in a while. Like, I loved House back in the day. I feel like this Ballard sort of had that vibe to me of like, oh, I forgot we used to make shows like this.
Oh, that's good.
Where it's like, it felt very homey, I guess, in a way. Like a classic.
Okay.
It felt classical.
Right.
So, but I did want to ask, like, kind of in the same vein as the American Horror Story thing, is like, do you look at, was there like a mandate to keep kind of Bosch look
Oh, right.
thing happening, or like how did you, because it is, like there's like some very strong, like beautiful backlight type stuff that maybe modern cinematography would say like, oh, that's a little too theatrical, we don't do that anymore. A lot of good color interplay, that's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a good question. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it definitely is, stepping into is definitely out of the Bosch world, and a spin-off, definitely technically a spin-off of Bosch that introduced her character, Ballard's character, at the end of the last Bosch season, to kind of springboard into the show. So for sure, the mandate was, had to feel like it was one foot in the Bosch universe, but clearly from all the creatives, it was supposed to have its own look and kind of feel and personality. And so it's right, two paradoxical things a little bit, right? So for what that meant from like keeping the Bosch DNA was like a big part of the Bosch world. It's obviously an LA show. It's set in LA. It's Michael Connelly world, authenticity of locations and all of that. There's some sets, but the Bosch was very much grounded in the, a lot of location work. The locations had to feel real. Yes, there's design. Yes, there's lighting and elements had to feel very grounded, very real. That was kind of paramount to everything. Ballard had one foot in that, in the sense that, look, again, locations wise, like we spent a lot of time in prepping that first kind of pilot, that first episode, with the showrunners and Jet, the director, and everyone, the designer, Ray, and the whole team, producers, in finding the sweet spot of that, right? Like we had these locations all over LA, but they had to be based on what they were in the script, geographically make sense, right? It wasn't one of those shows where it's like, we're on the west side and then they hop in the car and all of a sudden they pop out,
Lancaster.
magically go through the portal of time and space to pop out in
the Grand Theft Auto 6 effect of like 2 streets down, you're in Santa Monica, 2 streets up, you're in West LA or West Hollywood.
Which is fine, in other shows and other films that can work. But for this is very much like still keeping that sense, and even if the audience doesn't know that, that's just a big kind of mandate. So there's that, but something we were kind of building that was just in early conversations with all of them was a little bit of this like vibrant noir, like it should feel grounded, but because of Ballard's perspective and character and this kind of another concept kind of it's kind of like I like to call like emphasizing empathy. Like, she's running this cold case unit. They're trying to bring this dignity and kind of respect to these victims that everyone's forgotten about and their families. Someone disappeared 15 years ago and there's still a grieving mother or family their lives have been wrecked by this. And so it's like there's a bit more kind of introspection and kind of thoughtfulness. It's just a different character than Bosch, right? So and she's very kind of very motivated and focused, but also very kind of controlled and calm. It's like it's like for me, I think of it as like a personality of the character in the show. So like the locations are authentic, but we brought a little more color to it, a little more kind of a little softness. Like it's a lens choice thing as well. Like
DNAs on that one?
Yeah, it's DNAs. It's fine. I mean, I've shot the DNAs before too. I tested a whole bunch of stuff and circled back on the DNAs. It was just the right fit for this show in terms of it's still a Michael modern presence. It's vintage gas, but not quite, as gauzy. And I still did, I didn't want everything to bow out. So there's still kind of a portrait quality when we wanted it. And we mixed in some other lenses and the Helios lenses too for more kind of portrait looks, or you kind of get into her head. So it's like all of that is part of a little softer palette and kind of painterly touch, but still, still a drama to it. Still lighting wise too. There's this basement cold case unit set, which was supposed to be kind of a forgotten space in the LAPD, like, so it's like old fluorescents and practicals mixed in and storing desks in the corner. It's kind of dusty. And so at least, especially in the first few episodes when they're moving in and get settling into that space, this kind of ragtag team, it's like, that's where we're doing the mixed color temperature and being able to build and control that. And just so I was trying to kind of have my cake and eat it too, right? Have like a bit of a softer kind of slightly, I don't want to say glossy is not the word I've used for the show, but like, yeah, a little bit. It's a comfortable, pleasing image, but still be grounded, in, I wasn't trying to go for kind of a network pop sheen to it either. So it's like kind of try to find the sweet spot. And we kept coming back to was kind of the character of Ballard, especially thinking about in the first couple episodes, how she's very kind of clean and controlled and she's leading us through spaces. It's kind of, we try to like pare things down, keep the camera moving, kind of the cadence with her cadence, if that makes sense. And like, so you really get a sense of how she navigates the space and how she navigates the world. And then from there, the season goes on where the season goes. There's ups and downs and all kinds of crazy stuff that happens to as they go along, as her and the unit face all these cases and, action sequences and all kinds of stuff. But it's all like starting off with character and kind of personality of characters, how the way I tried to approach it.
Yeah. The cold case room is like two-parter. I'm always fascinated by when people start mixing color temps or just introducing color that isn't necessarily diegetic. John Wick, you've got green, Helios tubes, so it's like, okay,
right.
we know that's green. But like I was saying, like the sun coming in is very golden. The light, and I was wondering, is that just a color temperature plus grade thing, or are you going like RGB on these lights to actually get them to push? And like, are you shooting, the classic one for me, which kind of I've stopped doing kind of because it really, well, in any case, like shooting 4300 so that you do see all the color, but then
right, so you build it
kind of. But what was the approach there?
It was definitely in camera. It was definitely lighting wise. So I mean, not to say we didn't push or enhance in the grade here and there. Like with our LUT definitely was a rich LUT. Like we worked with Walter Opato at Picture Shop Art Colors, and
he's great.
Yeah, Walter's great. So he's kind of a maestro of a bit of a, without going to the weeds too much, like definitely a bit of a filmic curve and look in there. I know it's a very generic thing to say, but we kind of found the sweet spot with that, with our own kind of color shifts. So there's a little bit of kind of alchemy in the LUT, but like the cold case unit being the most obvious example, the color that's there is the color that's there. So we really, a big thing for me, as soon as everyone started conceptualizing that set and talking about what it should feel like and look like, I was like, yeah, definitely we should lean into this mixed color temperature feel. We should feel these fluorescents are all mismatched and some are older. And that was, of course, just as much production design in terms of what you see as our lighting control. And so we put our own tubes in all those. We controlled the whole space. We did let the sun come in a bit warm and started to shift through the season a little bit. It wasn't always going to be kind of golden and stream, but we were kind of pushing it a little bit, especially in the first couple episodes, to kind of set just kind of set the bar of where we could navigate and what the world could feel like. But definitely it was a conscious choice. And that it's not just like we went and post and started, or, the color started just split toning it. It was more, and we controlled, we dial in how much kind of green and cyan we want different units, and then we could shift on the fly. So a given scene with Cynthia Pushek, the other DP that we shared the show with, who's great. We, the goal for both of us, and we would make sure that both of us had the range to shift and pull different scenes, right? So if like, we didn't want the streakier sunlight, we played softer units, the sky panels, and, and obviously different time of day. We could get it as kind of in the much, get as specific as we wanted with that kind of daylight feel versus the fluorescence and how much color shift there was or not, right? So, but the green, kind of the cool tones, and I really loved, for some reason, that was just really in my brain when we were prepping, was this feel of, slightly cooler shadows on the skin tones, and then this kind of hotter daylight that would somehow kind of pierce, because it's supposed to be a somewhat split level basement. It's not totally submerged. So I wanted to at least establish the idea that you could have this light that kind of made it down into there on just one wall, right? Like some of the daylight made it so it felt a little hot and spicy in relation. It's more like what it would feel like than necessarily what it would, completely look like, if that makes sense. It's
emotional lighting.
Yeah. So it is a little, it's tricky. And maybe, I don't tend to self-reflect on my own work, which can go different directions, but I guess I always am trying to find on a given project, like, where's the sweet spot for the story we're telling, the personality of the story we're telling, like in between realism and, emotional, I don't know, kind of, I guess, emotional barometer, right? Like, and so like, sometimes it's a little bit more this or that. And I wanted to definitely establish on this show earlier on that what I really loved about the story and the style of going all over in Los Angeles, the story, very Michael Connelly, very Bosch. Like you go to all the, every stretch of every area in LA, different neighborhoods and different characters. And, so I wanted to feel that when you enter these different communities and neighborhoods and environments, you felt this color shift, you felt as opposed to unifying everything, I actually, it was, yes, there's a uniform, there's something, you open a door and now we're in, Alice in Wonderland or something. It's more like, I want to feel that, this and it's production design, of course, and wardrobe and costume and everything, as much as everything else, but all departments, you very much like we were building this tapestry of Los Angeles. So you went in this area for this given episode and you'd feel the texture of this, or the patterns or color palettes, or the, of this particular environment versus this other area. And obviously night exteriors are a great example to build all the kind of different urban color environments. So it is a little pushed, a little heightened, but I would also go, night exteriors, and of course take a lot of, in with locations, have a lot of reference stills of what was actually there, and then be able to kind of build off what was authentically there, and of course shape and do our own things. But we definitely want to feel like a Los Angeles show, because I mean, to be frank, it's like there's not a lot of Los Angeles shows these days. And
my
so
joke was going to be, what part of Vancouver did you shoot in?
well, and I, and not to like, we don't have to get into that too much, but it's like, I was very conscious, we shot this a few months ago. I was very conscious that we were and felt very fortunate to be shooting a show that's in LA, for LA, about LA. It's all about leaning into all that. And fortunately, that comes from Michael Connolly and the producers and the showrunner. It's very much like they want to see LA, right? It's like, this is an LA show. It's very specific about where it takes place. That's part of the character show. That all of that idea comes from the Bosch world. It's like, okay, now how do we do that with this character in this story to still feel very LA? We want to highlight it. We want to see the whites. We want to see them on the street. We want to see them by the beach. We want to see them, it's like, yes, I know, and so much of everything, everything, a lot these days is shot, like you said, that's like the joke, right? South Africa for LA or something. Which is great. Look, that's part of, and that's part of what we do as cinematographers, right? It's a lot of magic tricks, but I wanted to really be able to lean in and highlight that, and, really be able to feel whether you're driving around or, all these locations, really feel the locations, and not kind of, because sometimes we are having to hide things or shoot around, or the opposite, right? When you're shooting LA for New York, shooting LA for some other place, oh, we got to trim out the palm trees, or,
Right.
make it feel softer sunlight.
You got that one corner of Century.
Yeah, of course.
Looks right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's it.
Oh, are we going to be able to paint out that one, oh my gosh, I don't know, and agonize over that. No, this was like, no, lean in, go for it. We're shooting where the story takes place. What a beautiful gift these days. So yeah.
Well, that must also felt, you're from, well, I guess you're from San Diego?
I'm from San Diego. Yeah. I mean, I've lived here since 2000, but yeah.
Yeah. But in any case, like being able to, I would be excited at least to be able to highlight, like you said, there's not a lot of stuff shot here. So to be able to highlight your hometown in that way probably is gratifying in a way, to remind
100%.
Like, oh, this is still nice.
Yeah, no, 100%. It was great. It was great with the, obviously working, to give props to the crew and the team all around, which a lot of this, especially the G&E team I've worked with on all the way back to Horror Story, a lot of the team, and through several shows, and great team. And same thing. So it's like, wonderful crew here, camera department, ace camera team. And so it's all part of that too. Like, being able to work with a lot of crew I've worked with. I've been fortunate over the years to do, maybe compared to some folks, do a lot of work in LA. I mean, I did some Wu-Tang shows, some Equal Eye, so a lot of stuff in New York for a few years too. But, being able to shoot this show in LA for sure, and be able to take advantage of all what's great about shooting in LA. So it was nice.
How do you go to, like, I'm fascinated, not even as just like a cinematography exercise, but just as like an emotional thing, getting becoming one with the city, is like, how do you decide what a neighborhood looks like? Like, how do you, when we're heightening the reality of the situation, like what are those things that make it feel like Chinatown, like the Arts District, like Venice? Like, what are you doing? Because obviously you could do the fucking Mexico tobacco filter and be like, it's East LA. But how does the neighborhood speak to you for you to make?
Well, that kind of depends on the scene, right? So it would always start, of course, with locations and the designer. So Ray Yamagata is a production writer, is great, and we're all, of course, on the same page from the beginning. And this prep process at the beginning of a new show is really finding, again, what does that mean for the show? So like Ray was very much adamant, again, the showrunner, the director, on like, we would look at a lot of location, kind of whittling down the potential locations for a given scene or sequence that were supposed to take place in whatever neighborhood, and kind of, they're all authentic locations. Okay, well, what's telling the best version of the story? And then, we love, I mean, I'd have to think of an example, but like, we love the way this convenience store has this certain this pattern, or, this fluorescent lighting, but then there's this bright, colorful, wall or kind of mural, right? The first couple episodes had this mural it's story-wise, this mural is kind of a clue for something. And we looked all around, a mural day exterior kind of out in the, and we looked all around, long story short, and then we're going to do this one mural, but I forget the exact reasons, but it didn't quite work for some other reasons, kind of the way we had to shoot it. Anyway, we found this amazing real mural that tells the story. And then they were able to incorporate a little bit what this mural was, subject wise into the story a little bit. So the writers could kind of tool it back in the story, and then color wise, it worked into our kind of vibrant noir aesthetic, like it all, you know what I mean? So it's like we did have concepts that we were overlaying on the reality of it, but the reality and authenticity of these locations or elements could kind of reinform, it kind of be integrated back into the story, right? So it's like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? I don't know, but it was a constant. Everyone was really interested in that for the sake of this, that was a paramount, that it felt authentic, but also had a kind of vibrancy and a little bit of style and kind of electricity to it. So it was kind of, again, like it was authentic, but we weren't just going in shooting, it's like, okay, we didn't just show up and, turn on the lights or show up and shoot all available light. It's like, no, that's not what we're doing. We're still crafting a perspective and a story, but we also aren't generally coming to a location and just retooling it from scratch. Same thing lighting wise. I mean, I will say night exterior, there's not a ton of night exterior in the show, but we did, one thing that was important for me was building like a gel pack color for this show. I mean, I do it on every show, but like we whittled down a lot of, colors and build our kind of color book that, we had the dimmer board op. It's all for all our LED units and everything, so that we had a palette to work with at night, right? So for both Cynthia and I and Eric Segura, Gaffer and team, so we could go through and all our night exterior, we mix some of what was available. So if there's like area lights or LEDs or the street lights or just some other, we always keep a little bit of that, but then we would also push some of our own kind of polluted urban colors into there. But again, and yes, there's some sodium vapor in there, which is there's not too much in LA anymore, although there's still pockets. So
I hate that we've gotten rid of those. I mean, it's safer. Great, but like,
no, it's really funny.
Good.
I know. So there is some of that in the show, but it's also funny because we'd go and we get location scout photos, night study photos, or I love to, when I can, if I have time, I'll go out to a hero location and myself take pictures and get a sense and look at the color and because I really have to kind of see it myself when I can. I can't always do that schedule wise, but
meter. I'm constantly taking
color meter and kind of like, because we did want this, I'm just, it's just where I've kind of landed in the past, recently is I love where colors pollute and mix in terms of, it's just kind of, I love that playground. So like where colors bleed into each other. And so if that kind of, so that's definitely part of the aesthetic and the look in this, but that would again often come out of the locations. It's very, very kind of LA things, but it would always be fun if we had scout photos or my photos that go like, look, this is still a sodium vapor here. Look, we can, so we can lean into it. Let's save that. And then let's supplement from that or add our own color with the unit. So it's like, we still would build off the locations, but supplement a little bit and come up with, sometimes we push a little more color than it was there, but
there's a, on the 10 over here on the west side, there's this one street light on the freeway itself that has gone bad and they just haven't fixed it for like 5 years. And it's so funny because, correct me if I'm wrong, but like sodium vapor, when it starts to fail, just it goes more orange and maybe a little magenta. Like it doesn't really, it just stays orange. This one street light, like obviously all the LEDs are 6500. And then there's this one street light that failed and it went purple, like UV purple.
I knew you were going to say that. I have that in my neighborhood here. I'm in the east side, and literally and it's like there's been two. It's so funny you mentioned that because literally while we were prepping, I remember this. I was walking my dog, and we were talking about this vibrant noir. And this is right when we were doing our color, like dialing in our colors and everything. And I literally took a picture of that. I have this, it went full on purple, zingy purple, like someone, had a sky panel up there and dialed some crazy color.
Yeah.
And I was like, I took a picture. I sent it to the showrunner, and I was like, here's our vibrant noir. This is in real life. We didn't do anything in the show like that because it would have seemed crazy, but there is something to that idea, right? I mean, there's like, and it was mixing actually with an old sodium vapor around the thing. So I was like, okay, but it's funny. I mean, yeah. And then these LEDs will still be a little skewed. And, I think it depends on the show and the personality of the show, right? Sometimes you're really trying to rein in the palette and kind of clean everything up, for lack of a better, this was
unify.
Yeah, unifying just kind of, a very limited palette, which is the nature of a given story. This was not that. This was about, leaning into the kind of dynamicness of LA and the the diversity of the neighborhoods and the textures, and it's a little, it can be clean and beautiful, and it'd be kind of grungy and dirty, and it's like that's what makes LA really interesting, right? And so it's and just traversing the territories. I mean, literally, it's such a location heavy show. That's just the nature of the story. Like they're popping around, and every new episode they're somewhere else. And we had a lot of just current production schedule. There's so many locations. We had a lot of company moves, like boom, boom, boom. We're here a couple hours. Sometimes we have 2-3 moves a day. Of course, we had our stage work, but like it's a very intense show. So, so it's challenging in that way, but it's also great with the crew we had that our rigging crew is fantastic. So we could come up with these ideas, and they'd have, of course, everyone kind of bring their own ideas as a way to kind of execute this, or what if we did this and that, but like be able to leapfrog to really, I want to make sure we really kind of are pushing towards the edges of what we can do in that regard, as opposed to just, sometimes you have to you're always making creative compromises, or you're prioritizing, right? That's the nature of the job. But like really, so that you really felt like it was you were going on a journey. Because that is something. I mean, I've lived in Los Angeles for 25 years, and it's still right. It's still, I've shot everywhere. I've been all over, but there still are pockets I've never been, or some neighborhood, or some, it's constantly changing, right? I mean, neighborhoods are changing. It's a very alive city, and it's there are many different hearts to Los Angeles. So it's like it's such I want that feeling to be there. Like you could turn a corner and now you're in some little pocket that has its own kind of personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never been more conservative than when a new restaurant replaces an old favorite.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, of
You
course.
sons of bitches. That was my favorite spot.
Yeah, exactly. As if, and look, I mean, it is tragic, especially if you have, we have emotional connections to these things, but also knowing, of course, that change is the only constant. So it's like
inevitable. Yeah.
Inevitable, but it's like, I know I sound like an old man saying that, but like it is true. But yeah, so there's definitely something to that, but it was a blast. It was a lot of fun to be able to shoot in the city that, I live in and love. So
yeah. Was there like because you had so many company moves and stuff, was there like a sort of, I want to say formula, because no two things are the same, but like kind of a mother sauce, so to speak, on shooting these exteriors, where like you're like, all right, this is kind of the shape we're generally going for, and then we'll church it up as necessary. But was there like a, I'm making this up, but like, all right, we're always going to have an overhead and one, scratch bounce, and that's always going to be there to get us going?
Oh, you mean like, yes. I mean, I guess the short answer is yes. And the G&E team would know the kind of, without me even having to say anything. I mean, I work with this team a lot, like would know the flavors of things I would want to have. And but I'd be so since I was alternating with Cynthia, the other DP, on episodes, right? So I'd be prepping while she's shooting her episode and vice versa as we hopscotch along. But we tech scout the next episode with the riggers, who are great and I've worked with the first team. Like this whole G&E team have worked together, Grip and Electric and the riggers together on several shows in a row, including some shows I've shot and some other folks in town. So like they are so tight in terms of their whole workflow, and like, you know what I mean? Like it's amazing. That's why it's a super blessing. I was really fortunate to be able to bring them on the show. And so that was just, I mean, that made the world difference, because and I've worked with this team for years on other shows too. So they know me, it's like not just kind of, sensibility wise, but like they know when I was asking for something, what I was asking for, if that couldn't happen, let's say on the tech scout, like, oh, let's replace those lights with these. And I want to make sure we could, blah, 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 blah. And if we can't do that, because, I have to go away after tech scout and deal with some, then give me an alternative to this, or you might come back, oh, we can't shut off these lights and add our own. So, okay, well, let's do that, so we all could kind of anticipate each other. And, but that was really key to it. But yeah, they would know, in night exteriors, I was pretty specific on, because it would depend on the scene or sequence, but there's certain things I would want to shape in a certain way, and sometimes I'm trying to think of a specific example, but, it's obviously there's many more curveball, like there's nothing worse than a night exterior where I can't shut off this one floodlight from this adjoining building that really ruins the whole thing, right? So like we got really detailed about, and sometimes you can't, sometimes you could, sometimes they would have access, they could work something out with the neighbor, or sometimes they couldn't, or, so it's like tried to we were always trying to do that, but I really tried to be as get into the minutiae as much as possible and micromanage that as much as possible, just because you know how much of a difference it makes. And, not just from the aesthetic or the look of what you're going for, but for the speed in which you can shoot, which is just as important on a show like this.
Yeah.
Because the faster you move, the more, the more you're able to kind of, the more setups and shots and time with that, performances, all of it, right? That you can kind of maximize everything else. More shooting time, less lighting time.
Yeah. I do love, I feel like night exteriors specifically are one of the most unique cinematographer fingerprints. Because like a day exterior kind of like unless Ozark or whatever, but like generally roughly
Right.
the same. The sun is there. We're going to work with the sun. But night exteriors, everyone, are we doing a Terminator 2 blue spike? Are we doing
100%?
And I always just love seeing how everyone handles it, because no one's wrong. It's just always, unless you're doing The Great Escape. That was incorrect. That looked like the day. That
right. Fair enough.
Watching that the other day, and I was like, no, they would have seen you.
Right. For the record, let's all get on the same page on that.
That was an F8. Like, no, you would have been popped out of the hole immediately.
Yes. No, it's true though. You're absolutely right. Well, because right, it's like that's you're starting. I mean, not that you could turn off all the lights in a location, but the default is 0. So right, if ever you start at 0, you don't see anything. So it's like, what do you see? What don't you see? What color in the way you see it? Obviously, you're shaping. It's like, while day exterior, it's all about control, right? It's like, how much are we controlling this or not? How much are we fighting the sun or leaning against it? How much were we able to schedule it to lean into to pray to the sun gods and lean into the backlight or the side light or whatever you want, or for that matter, front light if that's what if you want for the scene. But yeah, night exterior is the time you can really, and sometimes it is. This show, we wanted to kind of mix some of those colors bleeding into each other and a little bit of this the kind of personality. But on other on other stories that we're telling, it's like it's very much the opposite. Maybe it's much, just much more controlled or more minimal or more elegant in a way. But I wanted to just have a little bit of life to it.
We're a little over, so I know I'll let you go.
Oh yeah,
but I have a favorite cheater question, basically, which is, and I stole this from David Fincher. This was like in the Game director's commentary, but it just stuck with me forever, because it made my life as a DP I don't know why I'm explaining this so much, but it made my life as a DP so much easier, because it just simplified everything for me. But it took me like 5 years to figure out what the fuck he was talking about. And so basically, it's used in Ballard. What don't you do? In terms of the visual language of the show, what are you not doing?
Oh God, yeah, that is that good one, right? What don't you do?
Because it's like that's what informs what the show looks like. If you can do
it's true,
because you can say, yeah, we used I used the Steadicam. Okay, great. Well, what didn't you do? Because that's actually what the show looks like.
Right. Well, that's funny you say that. I mean, and you're always setting up, to some degree, you're setting up rules on a show, especially shows that you're starting out and shooting the pilot and setting, quote unquote, setting the look. But like, Cynthia and I talked about this a lot at the beginning, because we were in the first, I don't know if I'm going to directly answer this question. I'll try not to ramble too much, but
this is the ramble show.
In the first episode, so the director was Jet Wilkinson, who's great. And I've worked with her on an episode of the Wu-Tang series, and she's wonderful, and we were very much on the same page, sensibility wise, and I was plugging into how she was seeing it. But it was a very kind of controlled, for the most part, in the first episode, very controlled. Again, you're kind of anchored to Ballard's perspective, literally the way the script reads and how these scenes are laid out. She's leading us through spaces. I mean, it's very kind of, in a way, it's just kind of very pared down. Yes, there's a lot of scenes and locations and a lot going on, but it's like very, in a way, we wanted that to feel real and organic, but also, again, be kind of anchored to her. It's not just her perspective, but for me, again, like her pace and cadence, like literally, like she's walking to it's like there's a certain kind of, I don't know how else to explain it, but cadence. But so with camera movement and feel and control. So like that was really paramount. There's no handheld in the first. Is that true? Wait, I don't think so. Second episode, but we very clearly, it's all Steadicam and Dolly and, Ronin. And without a lot of, there's some dynamic move, but it's not flashy. It's not, I don't know. It's again kind of very kind of just elegant. At least that's the aim we were going for. And strong compositions, right? We lean into architecture, kind of very formal frames sometimes, and
I
mixed with.
forgot to mention that you did a great there, especially that first season or first episode. There's like a lot of really good. You really maximized the set, especially down specifically in that main room. But yeah,
And that was very conscious. So like that, there's a certain kind of quality to that. But then we also knew, like in episode 2, which Jet directed as well, we did that block together, 1 and 2, episodes 1 and 2. We did have one sequence where there's an action sequence, we're kind of chasing down this guy in this rundown house, and that we did introduce some handheld to break it up and kind of, there's just certain energy that things kind of spiral out, spin out a little bit unexpectedly, and so that, again, nothing revolutionary, but it was important to kind of lay the groundwork. And there's a lot of Steadicam in the show, so there's nothing. It's kind of camera wide. There's nothing that's not on the table. And then Cynthia pulled some things in different directions. There's certain subjectivity that we get in kind of Ballard's headspace a little bit. Again, nothing hyper stylized. Like it's all grounded in some version of reality. It's not like but there's some specialty lenses and stuff there. But in terms of, so I mean, a lot of that was on the table. What didn't we do? I don't know. I mean, I don't. It seems like I should be able to have a better answer for that question. Things still had to always feel, again, like I think we really worked hard to kind of, especially in the first block, to set up the palette we were working in. Even though I keep talking about how much is the tapestry and all these locations of different colors, still wasn't like you step into a crazy red room and it's like it's still kind of grounded. Again, it comes informed by the locations, authentic of the story. So it still had to feel grounded enough. I guess the short answer is not a good answer. Anything we didn't do, it's not like we never shot a shot, like we only shot the show on 3 lenses, or we only, it's not, which I'd love to do, actually. I'd love to do show we only shot 3 lenses, but that was not this, because we knew, and I also didn't, I mean, no one would want to do that, but I didn't, I'm cautious at the beginning of the show not to set ground, some kind of starting point, visual approaches and visual ground rules, but also know, I mean, I think that's what's great about series. That's different about features, is that with the right series, right, the story goes that direction, that it should explore. Like we had certain episodes that would follow certain characters and get into this kind of sub story or B story, or that did become more subjective and was all about these kind of flashbacks or kind of memories. And so it was important not to limit that too much, because I think that's what keeps the story dynamic and interesting and surprises the viewer and keeps things feeling fresh. Like it's funny, I always think, like, the extreme example for that stuff I've done recently was the Wu-Tang show, which I shot the pilot and then through all 3 seasons, actually, and it's the story of the Wu-Tang Clan, long story short, over 3 seasons. But the last season, some of the last episodes we shot were these alternative universe, so it was like kind of not concept albums, but kind of concept episodes, where it was like you take one of Raekwon's albums and the whole kind of concept of that, like basically we had these kind of micro, talk about an anthology, we had these one-off episodes that were shot anamorphic, and all the actors were playing alternate kind of personas within the Wu-Tang universe based off a given album, right? And so it's like the alternate reality. So it's like they're total one-off episodes that make sense if you know Wu-Tang Clan and their mythology and universe and personas, but it was all, it was a total separation from the rest of the series. So like, that's great. When I heard about that for that 3rd season, that's what we were doing. And Rizzo from Wu-Tang Clan was directing a couple of those episodes that I shot with him. And I was like, yes, what a great way to do the last season of this show.
Speaking of what don't you do, I don't know if that guy doesn't do anything.
No, he does
Rizzo, anything.
Yeah. No, and it's amazing to work with him, because he really is one of those true kind of, just artists in every sense of the word. And he's constantly exploring, that's what excites me about working with filmmakers. Like, he's just constantly exploring, right? Like, he's curious. It's that curiosity, as obviously as a musician, as a filmmaker, he's a director, he's a writer, he's a musician, actor, it's like he's constantly curious. He's curious about people. He's curious about, he's a wise soul and a curious soul and a very creative soul and a bold, and he wants to take bold steps. And so it's like, bold leaps. So it's like, I love that energy. Working with him is great.
Yeah.
And he wants to bring out the best in the folks he's collaborating with. So it's like, there's nothing better than that.
Well, and was about to say he popped up in Nobody too, and I was like, what?
I know I haven't seen it yet. I know he said, yeah, I can't wait to see that too. I know something.
They did the classic like reveal, turns around,
Yes.
push in kind of
Heck
thing.
yeah.
Like, Riz is in this. I can't remember if he was in the first one. I barely.
He was. Yeah, he was in it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've got it on Blu-ray. I just didn't watch it before I watched the second one. But
I gotta see Nobody too. Yeah.
shout out to Callum Green.
There you go.
But to your point about collaboration and stuff, I was like, that would make sense being in the Wu-Tang Clan, right? You don't make that group wanting to be singular. Well, I guess some of them did, but
it's complicated. No, for sure. I mean, without, it's like, that's a whole nother conversation, but yes, I mean, he definitely,
that's a whole nother podcast.
I know it is, which was super fun. There's been many podcasts on it, much better than I can articulate, but for sure. I mean, that's a whole, but he's very much that role, to kind of boil it down, in the Wu-Tang Clan initially too, like pulling different, his friends and family and artists, but like pulling these guys together, and he saw what the potential and their energies and personalities, and how, and the kind of, there are other factors, but like, he's great at pulling a team together and really kind of like taking advantage of their strengths and creativity, in the best way, and like creating something greater than the sum of its parts. So like, and he's an incredible artist himself. So it's like, yeah, working with him, especially, it was such a unique project. Like the more, it's because it's obviously, it's all of that, him as his own art, but of course the story he's telling is his own story from 30 years ago. It's super, it gets very meta very quickly. So it's a fascinating process.
That's gotta be, I don't know if this happened to you, but I just imagine like being on set and you're like, what do you think we should do? And he's like, well, what happened was, and you're like, right.
Oh yeah. I mean, basically, I mean, that would happen on set. That happened in concept meetings, the script, he was the showrunner with Alex C, who's incredible writer showrunner as well. And so they, of course, and the great team of writers all the way through. But so, that came all the way through every process. But I have to say, like, literally the most interesting part of that, it's a lot of great interesting parts of that, being a part of that show, but would be seeing him, the gears turning on, like, this is what really happened. This is the story we're telling, and how we have to distill it into, right. And you kind of, from a writer point of view, right, like all these things were happening, but now we have to distill it down to the essence, the emotional essence, or story essence, or plot essence of how this fits in the larger puzzle from a story point of view, right? Because you're telling a complex story, and then getting the performances right, or trying to get the essence of performance of the actors playing versions of. So it's like such a like 3-dimensional, kind of a 4-dimensional, I don't know how many dimensions, kind of process of seeing that unfold and helping kind of bring that to life. But yeah, for sure there would be times like, some of the cast would ask him questions about some given thing on set, or like there's something that we tweak on the day because some detail had to feel a little different, and the certain liberties that were taken, because again, we're telling certain things had to be recreated from production design / lighting or some other element that of course had to be very specific, and the other things is like, no, that's cool, let us kind of have the essence of what it was, but like let's tweak it to the version of the story that we're telling. And then there's always that kind of, it's very Wu-Tang, like very witty, unpredictable element, which we try to infuse from the beginning, which is, I kind of think it as like syncopation, like there's certain rhythms. Visually is why I know I'm kind of mixing my metaphors and sound and
I'm a drummer,
picture, but like good. So it's like there's certain visual rhythms, and I can mean that literally, kind of pacing wise with shots and kind of composition, or and then like little snaps throw things off when story or emotion or something. And it can be as little as like, camera movement, but also just kind of like a shot that breaks the visual rhythm, or, you know what I mean? And that's very much kind of very Wu-Tang, kind of snaps you a little kung fu in there, a little Shaw Brothers, a little. So it's like, it's all part of that. That was a very fun show because we were able to kind of keep it dynamic and play a little bit within all that too.
Yeah. Well, definitely kept you longer than I was supposed to. So, but I appreciate the extra time. But, keep in touch. I mean, I would like when I ran into you at the clubhouse, I hadn't necessarily heard it, and then I looked up your CD. I was like, oh, it's like everything that's good, sick. It's not that it's rare to everyone's very, very good, but it was fun to just see how accomplished you are. Be like, I just ran into this guy. This is awesome. Like,
Oh, that's cool. No, I'm so glad. No, it's fun. No, thanks for having me on. No, it's great. It was great to chat in general, Kenny. I was glad we met at the clubhouse, and
yeah,
the podcast is great. And so I'm all like basically what we're saying. I'm just happy to chat with interesting folks, creative folks. So this is fun.
yeah. Well, we'll definitely have you back. Or I don't know if I ever end up on the east side. That the one, like, I'm happy to meet anyone in the middle, but it is a toughie. I remember I'm now can say I'm friends with Jessica Lee Gagne, and
Oh, cool.
she was staying. Me, her, and Joanna Coelho were gonna meet up.
Okay.
And we were gonna meet in downtown, but then they did that shutdown of that very specific part, and we were all gonna go to Death and Co. And Death and Co was right in the zone. So Jessica goes, "Oh, I'm on the east side. So does anyone?" And then John was like, "Me too." And so I had to drive my happy ass an hour and 20 minutes to like Eagle Rock or wherever. And I was like,
"That's where I am, basically." No,
yeah.
Wait, where are you though?
I'm in Sawtelle.
Oh, you are Sawtelle. Okay,
yeah. So
okay, that's right. Yeah, no, that's the real deal, man. I know. No, trust me. Obviously, I have some friends and folks on the west side, and it's always like trying to navigate how to do that exactly.
I feel so dumb, but it's also, I will say, living in LA has expanded my definition of what is a long drive. Because
yes,
it took maybe an hour to get over to that restaurant.
Yeah,
but back when I grew up, San Francisco was an hour and a half away, and we were all like, we had to plan for that.
Oh my God, that was like
huge
road trip,
right?
Road trip. We're going out of town. Like,
yeah, and now it's like, oh, an hour and a half. I guess I can make that work. Like,
I know.
No, every time, in a minute, you know.
I know it's funny how it's so familiar and it never gets old in a way. Like I took my son went back to school on Wednesday, and my wife's already been working. And so I was like, I want to hang out with my son the last day before he goes to school. So Monday, whatever. No, Monday or Tuesday we went down to it's like one more beach day. So just him and I went down to the beach, Malibu, or Will Roger. But yeah, and of course, I mean, I've done it a million times. So I was like, oh, we'll just hang out longer. And I was like, oh, we're leaving at 3. What a horrible idea to go home. I was like, the original idea was to leave at 1:30. So I was like, no, it's the last day of summer. We're gonna hang out. But I mean, I'm like, we're gonna get it. It'll take like an hour 45 minutes to. I was like, yes, of course. Done it a million times, but it never gets old. It's like how infuriating. Yes, you get used to it, but you don't in a way. It's like, and I was fine with this in a podcast. We made it home, but like, still, it's like an hour and 45 minutes. That's nuts. Let's really think about that. Like, I'm supposed to be living this is where I live. Like, you're telling me an hour and 45 minutes. And I'm from San Diego. So there's now more and more traffic going to San Diego. But I remember, a couple of days ago, I could get home to San Diego, my parents' house, in 2 hours. So like, not anymore, by the way, because of traffic between here and there. But anyway, it's crazy.
I used to follow this band around when I very first started, like after I left college, I was working at Red Bull, and so I just didn't have I went to film school in Arizona and was working at Red Bull, and I was like, I'm going to work for this company forever, and it didn't. And so when I left, I moved back here, and I didn't have a reel, so I just had to kind of start from scratch.
Yeah.
And so my buddy had a band, and they were playing in San Diego every weekend at the Tin Roof, and so I would follow them and film, and then we'd make like music videos that they had like a house that they had rented because we were there every week.
Yeah.
And the move that I really fell in love with was taking that Amtrak, the Surfliner.
Yes, that's it.
We were doing it so much because it's about the same travel time now. It's 3 hours or whatever, but you get to sit in that little food cart, and we had done it so many times that we would see the same people. You're not supposed to just hang out in the food cart.
That's right.
Make you leave. We would, and then we'd just be like buying beers and just like hanging out. And we're like, we're going to,
And it's the best ride ever. It's phenomenal. And it cuts along the coast for those runs. No, I definitely love that. It's fun. We haven't done it in years. For whatever reason, we need a car. It is because we visit my parents, we need a car. But totally, that's the best. That's the way to do it whenever you can. That's the way to do it. It's so nice. That's good, man.
Well, hopefully I'll run into you soon, but I'll let you know. It's funny. I have to meet a friend of mine in West Hollywood, because she lives on the east side. That's where the middle.
No, exactly. I have a couple friends that we meet. It's like, depending, maybe we'll get all the way to Hollywood or mid city, right? Yeah. Depending on like how we can navigate the meeting point, depending on who's, can you come all the way to what? Yeah, can we go all the way to East Hollywood? That's a stretch. Yeah. That's good, man.
All right. Now I'll let you go, but thanks for chatting, dude. And we'll keep in touch.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Kenny.
Yeah.
All right. Take care, man.
Later, bud.
Frame and Reference is an Owlbot production, produced and edited by me, Kenny McMillan. If you'd like to support the podcast directly, you can do so by going to frameandrefpod.com and clicking on the Patreon button. It's always appreciated, and as always, thanks for listening.